Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the open meeting for Tuesday, October 24th, 2023, and ask the Commission Secretary for information on today's agenda.
Each commissioner has independently reviewed the minutes of the open meeting of Thursday, October 19th, 2023, and each has informed me there is no need to discuss the minutes.
I move we approve the minutes of Thursday, October 19th, 2023.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Each commissioner has independently reviewed the agenda, and each has informed me there is no need to discuss the notices associated with agenda items 2 through 5, the draft order to reopen for correction associated with agenda item 6, or the suggested minute associated with agenda item 8, denying the request for formal review of the complaint filed by Jacob Huck against Wisconsin Electric Power Company.
I move we approve the notices of investigation associated with agenda items 2 through 5.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. In docket 5350 ER 112, I move we approve the draft order to reopen for correction.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And in docket 6630 CC 241620, I move we deny Mr. Huck's request for a formal review of his complaint.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that moves us to agenda item 7, which is docket 5-BP-2023. As part of the bipartisan infrastructure law, the Digital Equity Act program was created, and the purpose of the Digital Equity Act is to promote the achievement of digital equity, support digital inclusion activities, and build capacity for efforts by states relating to the adoption of broadband by residents of those states. The National Telecommunications and Information Administration, or NTIA, which is a part of the U.S. Department of Commerce, administers this newly created digital equity program and has delegated primary administration and implementation responsibility to states. Following each state's successful completion of multiple application steps for each program, the NTIA is allocating funding in 2 phases. First, to support planning, data gathering, community engagement, and local coordination. And second, to implement those plans through infrastructure investment and digital connectivity inclusion efforts. Under Wisconsin State Statute Section 16.54, Governor Tony Evers authorized the Public Service Commission to administer Wisconsin's Digital Equity Program funds. The Digital Equity Planning Grant Program allocated funding to states for the creation of state digital equity plans and to plan for the Digital Equity Capacity Grant Program. The Commission received Wisconsin's award of $952,198 in planning funds, and states that received digital equity planning grant funding must submit to the NTIA a digital equity plan. The purpose of the plan is to establish the state's vision for digital equity in the context of its overarching strategy and goals. There are very specific statutory requirements for the contents of the state digital equity plans. Those statutory requirements appear in the memo in this docket. The Commission staff in preparation for the digital equity plan had actually had an infrastructure in place even before the NOFO came out. So this is work that has been ongoing here at the PSC. But specifically to meet the statutory requirements, Commission staff conducted an Internet for All Wisconsin listening tour across the state to solicit input related to both the digital equity plan and the BEAD program. Importantly, Commission staff also set out to collect data on both barriers and opportunities. They worked with the University of Wisconsin Extension. We engaged a consultant, Boston Consulting Group, to provide data and analysis. And the plan that we have in front of us goes into extremely thorough detail. It's more than 100 pages long about that outreach that's been done by Commission staff and partners that we have engaged in order to gather the data and information necessary from the covered populations that the digital equity plan is constructed to help. So we received a lot of comments And I had a couple questions when I was reading through all the comments. I thought that the comments were very thoughtful. They were also very specific. And so during my briefing, I did ask the question of, am I expected to go through each and every comment and give it sort of a thumbs up, thumbs down? And my understanding is that this digital equity plan, consistent with other federal plans that we, the commission, submit to federal agencies, that our staff work with internally, our division leadership. They will continue to work with me, who I am the delegated commissioner for broadband, and our legal and our fiscal teams in order to incorporate not just the public comments we received, but equally important federal staff that are engaged in this sort of communication back and forth. So staff do track and consider each suggestion that we receive for documents like this. And staff will be incorporating revisions that align with the goals, the statutory goals that I mentioned, as well as guidance from NTIA. So that sort of leaves me at creating a new alternative, and that alternative would be to direct staff to work with NTIA to modify the digital equity plan consistent with the requirements under the federal law. So, there were some comments that I think were well-intentioned, but maybe they misunderstood. There was one comment about the color of the map. And I think maybe that commenter didn't quite understand what map was being referred to. But suffice it to say that this is not the last that we will see of this. It's not the final version, it's the draft version. And so because of that, I'm at that new alternative 4. Commissioner Huebner.
Okay. I might like to just take a break and confer with staff to be sure I have an understanding of the difference between that and maybe just approving it. So, but I'll give my comments first. I thought it was an excellent document. I thought the fact that we came at this both with the quantitative and we had really excellent data, but we also had really great qualitative data, as you mentioned, from the 9 listening sessions that all 3 of us had the pleasure of attending, multiple of those. And then all the other feedback that they've gotten through the work themselves with outreach, with UW Extension. We've got some other grants, sub-grantees out there gathering information. I think this was a great comprehensive document. I also read all the comments. It's my understanding some of the easy to fix ones will certainly be incorporated, making sure names and locations are correct, et cetera. And I didn't have any other substantive changes at this time. So I was coming in at alternative 1, so.
Okay. Commissioner Strand?
Thank you. I just want to also echo the sentiments of Commissioner Huebner and Chair Bach about the great work that the staff has done over a long time and a lot of information gathering. I think the plan is in a really good place right now. I was also at alternative 1, but I'm comfortable with the slight change as well to make sure that those things are being incorporated since we are kind of still in this draft stage.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, can I just talk to staff real quick?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, we're back. Commissioner Hebner.
Can you just repeat the way your new alternative?
Sure, I can. I have it written down. Direct staff to work with NTIA to modify the digital equity plan consistent with the requirements under the bipartisan infrastructure law.
Okay. Great.
And
just-
that's to give them, and just to be
Yeah.
clear, it's to give them the ability, because I came in at just approving it, but I know that there are minor
Right.
modifications
Yep.
that need to be made, so
Yep.
I want to be sure that they have the language they need to make any necessary changes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we're directing them to finalize the document.
Correct.
With, yep, that we don't have any other kind of policy changes we want them
Correct.
to do. Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
So with that understanding, I'm at the same spot then.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And you're good? Okay.
Definitely. Thank you.
All right, in docket 5BP 2023, I move that we direct staff to finalize the Wisconsin Digital Equity Plan consistent with our discussion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That moves us to our final item on the agenda for today, Agenda Item 9, which is docket 6680-CE-104. This is a proposal from Wisconsin Power and Light Company to receive from us a certificate of authority to construct, own, and operate a 99-megawatt alternating current battery energy storage system to be located at the site of the applicant's existing Edgewater generating station located in Sheboygan. The applicant expects to retire the last remaining unit at this coal facility by June 1st, 2025. The applicant submitted a generator replacement interconnection request to Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, or MISO, and received a generator interconnection agreement from them on November 9th, 2022. That generator interconnection agreement allows the applicant to use the transmission capacity available at the site of Edgewater Unit 5. We issued a notice of investigation for this docket. This type of a docket is a type 2. So we had an environmental assessment done, and the result of that environmental assessment was that no EIS was necessary. As presented in their application, the project would cost approximately $208.3 million. That is inclusive of AFUDC. The estimated in-service date for the battery energy storage system is expected to be in the third quarter of 2025. This proposed project is part of the next stage of the applicant's Clean Energy Blueprint Plan, which is a plan that involves a phased transition away from coal-fired electric generation to a more diversified generation portfolio that includes renewable generation and energy storage. So because it is under 100 megawatts, the Wisconsin statute that prevails is the Certificate of Authority statute, and we must address, among other things, whether the construction of this project will add to the cost of service without proportionally increasing the value or quantity of service. We've talked about this applicant and its capacity position at length in the past. There is, the applicant has shown that there is a capacity need into the future. Part of that is the result of some decisions that this applicant has made to divest itself of certain of its generating facilities. Included in this particular project is an inverter that is used to convert power from AC to direct current. And in response to some questions from staff, the applicant indicated that they will be using a grid-following inverter for the project. Again, as I indicated, the need rests on the applicant's capacity needs going into the future. This is due to the potential sale of an up to additional 125 megawatts of their West Riverside capacity, on top of 125 megawatts that was previously approved by the commission. The applicant also indicates that MISO's subannual resource adequacy construct and seasonal resource accreditation methodology along with the impending retirement at their Columbia and Edgewater sites, leads to this capacity need. In review of the project, Commission staff considered their modeling. The applicant uses the Aurora software. And in the model runs provided by the applicant and reviewed by Commission staff, the Edgewater battery project was routinely selected as part of the optimal generation resource plan for this applicant. There was some back and forth. Commission staff stress tested those modeling assumptions, as they always do. One of the questions that I was happy to see staff present was whether or not an additional extension of the life of Edgewater Unit 5 was realistic. Because as we have seen, plans often change. And so decisions that were made and were publicly pronounced to retire certain units have been pushed out into the future. And so I was pleased to see that this question was asked and answered. The applicant came back and said that it would be an unrealistic assumption if Edgewater 5's retirement date was extended past June 1st, 2025. This particular project, as I indicated, will be located on land already owned by the applicant at the existing Edgewater site. The clean energy blueprint that I mentioned as well has been subject to change over the last couple of years. It's due to several different developments that have occurred related to the applicant's capacity and energy needs. As I indicated, the projected retirement dates have changed since their original clean energy blueprint was announced. MISO has made shifts in their subannual resource adequacy construct. And so a variety of different changes were made to the modeling runs to determine now in sort of current state, what is the optimal resource mix for this particular utility. There were 4 different alternatives that were run through, and then 5 potential futures with varying input assumptions were run through the model. The net present value appears to show that this particular project is superior to the other analyzed portfolios that they looked at. In particular, they looked at adding a large amount of wind, and yet the model continued to pick the battery energy storage system. And so because of that, it appears to be the least cost option for this particular utility. They did include energy efficiency as part of their load forecasting, and they included 50 megawatts of demand-side management in modeling as well. And again, the current 99 megawatt BESS facility rose to the top. There are a number of different conditions that our staff has suggested in past battery energy storage projects. The majority of those projects were over 100 megawatts. So there was some modification to the proposed conditions that appear in our memo. But based on the economic analysis, I am comfortable that we can find that the public convenience and necessity require the construction of this facility under state statute. Again, it's because this project was part of the optimal expansion plan that rose to the top in the majority of sensitivities and modeling runs that were requested by Commission staff. There was no evidence in the record that showed energy conservation or efficiency could meet the applicant's stated capacity needs. And we received a couple of comments. In particular, we received comments from Wisconsin Industrial Energy Group encouraging us to do a couple of things. One thing was to pump the brakes on approving additional generation projects, not just by this applicant, but utilities in general, because of the upward pressure that it puts on rates. And I respect that position, and I understand that position. And again, we are very well aware of the upward pressure that's being put on rates by new generation facilities. However, when we're looking at a situation where an applicant is facing a capacity shortfall, I believe it is our obligation, indeed, I believe it's our responsibility to ensure that that capacity need is met. And because this applicant has stated that they are planning a transition away from fossil fuel generation, I think it is extremely important that we look at projects like battery energy storage systems as a means to ensure reliability as we get through this transition. So I respect the comments that we filed. They mentioned again, should we perhaps start looking into competitive bidding for projects that are being proposed by utilities? And CUB echoed a lot of those similar comments. Though CUB did have one suggested condition that I agree with and I would propose that we incorporate, and that's their suggestion that we require the applicant to notify the commission within 30 days of learning that any realized tax credits will be lower than currently estimated. So the tax credits that are being made available to utilities should hopefully go some way toward mitigating the upward pressure on rates. But if for some reason that tax situation changes, which we've seen that happen before, tax positions can change, it is important that we be notified. And CUB acknowledges that we do have a separate tracking docket for IIJA and IRA funding, but I think it does make sense to include it as a specific order point in this case, because it helps us when we eventually get to the point of discussing whether or not the project costs should be recovered in rates. So there's a list of 20 conditions in our memo, and I would accept all of those proposed conditions without modification, and then I would add CUB's suggested condition. So that puts me at alternative 2, approving the proposed project with all of the conditions plus CUB's suggested condition regarding the ITC. Commissioner Huebner.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah, at a high level, I continue to be impressed with the modeling that this applicant is doing regarding their Aurora model and the different futures. So they're really stress testing, the future's not going to unfold maybe the way you think it is. And so let's stress test it across 5 different versions of what may happen. I was impressed as well with staff, the different sensitivities that they had run, really trying again to stress test and see how robust is this particular project under a number of different conditions and a number of different situations. And as you mentioned, Chair, this particular project continued to be part of the low-cost resource mix. Wind was also very economic, but I think the applicant observed that you would need to build a lot of wind to get that amount of capacity value, and that much wind is probably not feasible by 2025, given the fact that we don't even have that much wind in the queue for Wisconsin at this point. So I'm at the same spot as you. I would approve this. I think that the tax credits are a really important component of this. And so I would join you in adding that condition, that if the tax credits change, we want to know about that. Because we'll get the tax credit in the IRA docket, but we may not get that, well, something changed and we're only going to get 30% instead of 40, and we want to know that. That is important. I agree with you on, the applicant had noted 2 conditions they would change. I'm at the same spot as you on condition 3, and that I would not change it. I would keep it at the 208.3 plus, which includes the AFUDC. On order point 15, I was okay with their modification because I thought we had moved to that, which is just
Is that the one that triggers the emergency
exactly
reporting?
Yep.
Okay.
So just making sure that it's an incident that is of a significant, above some sort of threshold. So I was fine with that addition. And then just as it gets to the alternatives, just alternative 1 had the request in it for recording 100% AFUDC on QUIP. And that wasn't specifically listed in Alt 2, but I was fine with that treatment. So just wanted to say that
Yep.
as well, so.
Agreed. And I would join you on accepting the applicant's modification to condition 15 because it is consistent with what we have done in
Yep.
the past.
Yep.
So thank you for that.
And then my final comment would be to echo what you said. I really appreciate the comments of both WIG and Cub. We're just around the corner from rate case season, so rate impacts are certainly right at the forefront of our minds right now. And so that's, we will be looking at those in future rate cases. And as you said, the tax credit for this project should be 40%, so that should be a significant impact on the $200 million cost. And as Wig noted, there's other generation that, the treatment of that is an issue in that rate case. So we'll start to look at that in future rate cases too, so. All right.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Strand?
Thanks. So I was also at alternative 2. I can support the tax credit information, the Cub suggestion, because I do think that's important information for us to specifically have as it relates to this project. And then I also was supportive of the applicant's minor change to condition 15 that Commissioner Hebner mentioned. So I would support that one as well as a modification. And then I also caught the AFUDC QUIP difference between 1 and 2, but was reassured by staff that that was also included in alternative 2 as well.
Yeah.
So, yep,
Okay.
that's where I am. Thank you.
Great. Okay.
In docket 6680 CE 184, I move that we approve the proposed project with all of the conditions as discussed today.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that concludes our official business for today. The next open meeting is scheduled for Friday, November 3rd, 2023, at 10:30 a.m. Make a note that that's a Friday, not a Thursday.
Move we stand adjourned until Friday, November 3rd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.